Auburn fans, quit comparing TJ Finley to Jeremy Johnson.
Zac, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Fun show lined up. Later in the show, we will be joined by Auburn defensive back Donovan Kaufman. We talk about spring. We talk about the transition, from Vandy to Auburn. And of course, this new scheme, maybe new defensive coordinator for sure, what all that is like for him. But first, I keep seeing this comparison all over the place. And I feel like we need to address it. Is this need for Auburn folks to compare TJ Finley to other quarterbacks that we've seen at Auburn? And the big one I've seen has been TJ Finley being compared to Jeremy Johnson. And I cannot stress how off that is. And I think it's off for really three different reasons. One is the hype surrounding each of these players. The situations between both of them are, I think, incredibly different. And they're different type of athletes. They're different type of quarterbacks. And so the hype with all of this, Jeremy Johnson was who he was because he ultimately wasn't terrible. But he was not the worst quarterback to start for Auburn in the past decade, like people talk about him. When you look at his stats, it's like, okay, they were kind of par for the course, compared to other folks that have started quarterback at Auburn, which that may be a bigger picture issue if we want to touch on that later down the road. But the reason he's seen as the way he is because we saw all these reports come out in Auburn's preseason practices going into his season about how he was a surefire Heisman contender, how he was an NFL draft pick, and how Auburn's offense was littered with first-round NFL draft picks. You're not seeing that with TJ Finley. In fact, I think you're seeing the opposite. In the same way many people built up Jeremy Johnson, I think you see a lot of people attempting to tear down TJ Finley. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair at all. I've talked about it time and time again, how in his limited time as a starter last year for the Tigers, he was in a rough situation, and in a situation where, honestly, I don't think he was set up to succeed by the coaching staff. Jeremy Johnson was set up for success, and he was given the keys way before Nick Marshall was done. And I think every Auburn fan would love to have Nick Marshall back. TJ Finley, you're not seeing that. And I think the perception of who they are as quarterbacks is off because of that. So I don't want to see that comparison for one of those reasons, hype. The next is the situation. And I touched on this a little bit already. TJ Finley, while he has had some starting experience with LSU and obviously now some starting experience for the Tigers, the Auburn Tigers, two different Tigers, he obviously has never really been given the keys in the offseason to start. He started at LSU because of injury. He started at Auburn because of injury. Let's be very clear that was not what happened with Jeremy Johnson. They went into the season building around him. And when TJ Finley came into the starting role last year, the offense was still built around Bo Nix, and Auburn needed a running game to help TJ Finley out, and they were not able to do it. He had not been practicing with the ones near as much as he should, and so depth was exposed at the quarterback position. And then obviously, the big chunk of the Iron Bowl, he was hurt, and obviously he was still kind of hampered and not quite as mobile as he should have been against Houston. That's a thing of the past. That's gone. So that's another thing. And then the type of athlete. Jeremy Johnson, while I didn't fully agree that this was the way to use him during Gus Malzahn's tenure as offensive coordinator or as head coach and also over the offense, they used Jeremy with his feet even after he was done being the starting quarterback. They still put him in this short yardage situation because he can move so much better. And if you line up TJ Finley and Jeremy Johnson next to each other, their 40s are probably similar. But as far as just how the game moves and how their bodies move, That's not the type of athlete that TJ Finley is. You're not putting TJ Finley in at quarterback in a short yardage situation unless he's there to hand it off. You didn't really see that with Jeremy Johnson. It's just different. It's a different style. You saw Jeremy Johnson do run that zone read. I think that was his first touchdown as a starter at Auburn in that Louisville game, if I recall correctly. You're not going to see TJ Finley do that. You're not. And so, I mean, there's three different reasons here. Like, they're just not the same quarterback, and it's not the same situation. And really, there's nothing to compare about these dudes except for maybe their stature. That's about it. It's about it. So I just wanted to dismiss that. And in fact, I was listening to The Drive yesterday, and one of the callers called in, and they quickly shut this down. Bill had Jason Caldwell on with him on ESPN 1067. But one of the callers, compared, Joey Gatewood is now at UCF, and he's playing receiver now, which is interesting. But one of the callers called in and say, how long until TJ Finley figures that out? And it's like, that's not the same thing at all. I think Joey Gatewood would make a good receiver. He's got the skill set. He's got the traits for it. And they compared, Joey Gatewood to TJ Finley. And I just don't think that's the right move. I think the perception of what's going on is off for folks that are saying that. And I think it's important. I mean, we're talking about a guy that could potentially win the quarterback job. And all of these folks that are saying, if TJ Finley wins the job, I'm done. And I don't fully know what you mean by that. Like, if you're listening to an Auburn show in March about Auburn football, you're probably going to watch Auburn no matter what, even if they, are 0-6. You're probably still watching them. And I think it's great. I mean, the Auburn fan base is so passionate, and I think that's what makes this place so special and this team so special. But let's give TJ Finley a chance here. And let's quit comparing him to failed quarterbacks that Auburn has dealt with in the past. And I mean no disrespect to Jeremy Johnson, and I mean no disrespect to Joey Gatewood. I like both of them. I covered both of them, and I was really high on both of these guys going into the season, but I think they would both say that they've underachieved during their time at Auburn. I think they would both say that. TJ Finley, I think it's too early to tell. So I just think it was, I think that was worth mentioning. I really do. All right, in just a moment, we talk with Donovan Kaufman. Stay tuned for that. Today's show is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens, they are one of our partners here throughout the Locked On Podcast Network. If you want to do something that is truly good for your body, where after 2 or 3 days of taking AG1, that is Athletic Greens product, AG1, it is, it's going to change your approach. It's going to change how you feel. I mean, it's good for so many different things. You can take it, no matter what kind of lifestyle you have, whether it's keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, it's all of that. And it's got really, really great ingredients in all of it. It's doctor, approved, physician approved. I mean, all of these different folks that really care about general wellness are all about this AG1 product. It's a powder. You mix it in water. First thing in the morning, you shake it up and you drink it. And it's so good for you. I've had it before. I feel great after I take it. So be sure to check out our friends at Athletic Greens and try their product, AG1. And to make this purchase easy, even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/college. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/college to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Also, today's show is brought to you by Stat Hero. I cannot wait to play Stat Hero Saturday for the Final Four matchups. I'm so excited about this Final Four. I know Auburn's not in it, but all these blue bloods, I cannot wait to watch it. And Stat Hero makes watching games that you really don't have a rooting interest in, you just want to watch them, it makes it even more fun. So be sure to check out our friends at stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON to get a 100% match on that deposit. That is stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. Terms and conditions apply. Donovan Kaufman, Auburn defensive back, joining us for the next few minutes here on the show. Man, I got to ask, how is spring going for you so far?
Well, spring's going great. The team is looking good, and this is honestly my best spring I've had since I've been playing football. So,
what do you think it is that's kind of setting this spring apart versus previous ones for you?
Oh, just being my second year in the system, this is my first time in college where I ever had like 2 consecutive years at the same place. So that just setting in, and like I'm one of the older guys now, so I have to.
Right. Is that even the same with, changing coordinators? I had Eku Leota on earlier in the week, and he talked about, it's a similar scheme, but he kind of mentioned that Coach Schmedding's language is a little bit different. Is that kind of the same for the defensive backs too? Yeah,
same. The calls are the same. All he did was change the names of them. He kind of put it into categories to make it easier to learn. So like certain calls, like if you hear quarterback, it's for something. It's for something. If you hear color, it's for something. So like to put everything in categories.
So who's calling that? Or is it one of you guys in the defensive backfield? Is it a linebacker? Is it Cam Riley right now since Owen's out? What does that look like?
Oh, well, no, we get the calls from the sideline, and then after we get the call, it's basically up to really the secondary to make all the checks.
Gotcha. So the defensive backfield, I mean, you guys, even though you lost some key guys from a year ago, like Smoke and Roger, I mean, a ton of depth back there. I mean, a loaded defensive back room at corner and at safety and at nickel as well. I mean, that's got to feel good, right? It's got to feel good when you kind of sit down for meetings and you look around and it's like, man, we got some dudes in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because, like, you might think it's loaded, but to us, it doesn't. Like, everybody we have can play. But compared to last year, we had a lot of DBs. Like, we really don't. It don't seem like we have a lot of depth to us. But, like, I guess to the public, like, because we used to having, like, 20 DBs. Like,
sure,
so, yeah, I think we got, like, 13 right now. So we got a little bit more coming in the summer, though. So
Right. Well, that seems to be something that's happening throughout college football with this transfer portal. And obviously you went through the portal stuff last year, but a lot of dudes are in spring right now, or a lot of teams are in spring with less guys than normal, less scholarship guys, because everybody's kind of sitting out waiting to see the lay of the land, where they're going to go next. So I'm sure a lot of places are seeing that.
Yeah, and then it's a lot of rule changes also that I'm hearing. I know, like, if you transfer after a certain date, you can't get the one-time transfer rule. So I learned that they put that in. So it's a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm just happy that I'm here.
Sure. Yeah, right. And, Auburn fans, they were eyeballing you as soon as your name kind of popped up and you entered the portal from Vandy last year. A lot of Auburn fans were kind of saying, oh, man, this guy would be an instant impact dude. And, I mean, it seems like that's been the thing. I mean, was it a no-brainer when you entered the portal originally?
It wasn't. It was really between here and Texas.
Okay.
Really what it came down to, Auburn felt like family. It was closer to home, and it was in the SEC. Also, Coach Mace was here.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure he was fun to play for, no doubt about it. So you mentioned you're one of the older guys now. What has that been like? I mean, I imagine that's kind of a shift mentally, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, I always did kind of like prepare as if I was an older guy, because I hung around a lot of older guys, like, when I was younger, like, just to see what it takes. So, like, me, my preparation always has been, like, heavy. I always been, like, in my notes, in my books, studying, going up and watching extra film, trying to bring a couple guys with me.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, I mean, is that something that's a year-round thing? I mean, even in spring, are you guys kind of getting a hold of tape and kind of sitting down as a group and watching it?
Definitely. You have to. Like, football is year-round. It's no off. It's no off season.
Yeah, right. And so, let's talk about some of your teammates. I mean, as far as the defensive back room, who's really impressed you so far? I know talking with Eku earlier in the week, he was really impressed with DJ James coming in and kind of grasping the system. Yeah. Have you seen good things out of him?
Hell yeah. DJ a baller. DJ is a baller. I love his play. Yeah. DJ, Caleb Wooden, you got Marquise. At the walk-ons, Nate and Tony, they even they balling, they doing good. Pug, we got Pug back there. Caden Bridges, he's stepping up. The secondary look good. We got John Reese. He's another walk-on. Simp, Mighty. Those guys, like, honestly, the secondary is coming along, and it's really, I'm not gonna lie, like, credit to Coach E, because, like, he really pushing us. Like, he want us to be the heart of the team, and, like, you can see that happening. Like, everybody is buying in.
Right. And, I mean, was there any talk? I mean, Coach Ethridge, there was a lot of talk of him possibly, it sounds like Georgia wanted him. And then he kind of said earlier this week in a press conference that, he wanted to stay put. He wanted to be part of, this thing that Bryan Harsin is building. That's got to be something that kind of excites you guys too, right?
Yeah. Before, we didn't even hear, me personally, I didn't even hear about the Georgia news, but he said he called us on FaceTime, put us on the FaceTime call. He was like, yeah, I probably seen the rumors. So, I just want to let y'all know firsthand, I ain't going nowhere. It's just talk. So
he has really kind of emerged as an up-and-comer due to his recruiting, is what a lot of people are saying. I mean, how personable is he? It sounds like he connects the guys super, super quickly.
I'd say simple as this. It's hard to fake real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well said, man. Yeah. That's well said. So talking about it, you mentioned a guy like Caden Bridges. That's a guy that has been the topic of a lot of conversation since the updated rosters came out on Auburn's website, and he gained 20-something pounds. I mean, is he putting in the work? Did he just hit a growth spurt? I mean, what's going on with him? What are you seeing for him?
He honestly probably did hit a growth spurt because when Caden came in, he was 17. So yeah. He was still growing, but he is working. He definitely putting in the work also. Right.
We continue our conversation with Donovan Kaufman in just a moment. I want to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the planet. I am back on my diet. I am eating well again, and Built Bar is helping me as I track all of my macros. They are extremely macro friendly with the high protein and low calories and low sugar. So be sure to head over to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off. So talk a little bit, Donovan, about NIL Auburn. I know that's been something that's been a big deal since, the rules change and you guys were able to kind of receive money based on your name, image, and likeness. And NIL Auburn appears to be leading the way in the SEC as far as, making sure Auburn athletes are taken care of and compensated. How has that impacted your life?
It's a blessing, honestly. So NIL thing is a blessing. I didn't really understand what football, how big college football was until you actually get into college football.
Right.
So, this NIL period is really just a blessing for players, our families. It make things easier.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So yeah, props to NIL Auburn. If you're a fan watching or listening right now, and you want to get more information about how you can make Auburn as attractive of a place, even more than it already is, go to nilauburn.com to check all of that out. So Donovan, you're a pretty versatile defensive back, and Auburn seems to have a lot of those guys. Where are you getting most of your reps right now? Are you at nickel? Are you at one of the safety spots? What has that been looking like this spring?
So yeah, I'm actually doing both. So depends on personnel. If we're in nickel personnel, I'll go to nickel. If we in a base defense, I'll go back up top to safety.
Right. I mean, most teams now are pretty much, nickel's the new base, right?
Yeah, because a lot of 11 personnel now. So you have to run nickel.
Right. What do you guys think about the guys in front of you? The two edge guys, Eku and Derek Hall. It sounds like they're having a monster spring. What are your expectations as far as the pass rush is going to kind of be able to help you guys out in pass coverage?
Yeah, rush and coverage go together. I love the front line. Sure. Whenever I make a play, it's probably a lot of times because of them, to be honest. So, because a lot of picks come in zone coverage and off of QBs trying to rush throws, and I think we have one of the best D-lines in the country, personally. So, I'm excited to see what those dudes going to do.
Yeah. And then, as far as the linebackers with no Owen this spring, it sounds like Cam Riley's been all over the place.
Yeah, Cam Riley stepped up. Wesley Steiner stepped up. Eugene Oshante, I love how he played. Transfer from UNC. I love how he played. Cam Brown. I swear, man, the team is just it's really gelling. It's more of a team. Everybody is really getting to know everybody. It's coming together. Everybody is bought in. I honestly think the stuff that happened, all the rumors and stuff with Coach Harsin, it just made us closer.
It's so interesting. Every current player that I've talked to, without me even bringing anything up, you guys have brought that up and talked about how it's brought the team together. That's So, I mean, that clearly says something. I mean, is it the whole team? Is it kind of offense over here and the defense over there? Or is it really just the whole squad?
Man. Yeah, it's everybody.
That's great. That's great. So as far as playing against this offense in practice, what has stood out about TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford transferring in and Holden Gariner? You know, I've heard nothing but good things about the true freshmen. What has stood out about them so far?
I'll tell you right now, whatever happens, whoever gets the job, they're going to truly earn it. I think what Auburn has going on, a quarterback situation is healthy for Auburn, period. I think TJ has gotten better. And I think he knows, like, he has competition, so he had to step up. So, and then we still have Zac Blackerby. He's hurt right now, limited reps. But once he get healthy, like, man, it's whoever is one starting game one, they earned it.
Right. Yeah, I know Calzada is limited, and I've seen him do some of the drills just during the open media periods. Is he able to do any of 11-on-11 stuff, or is it all just kind of individual work that he's able to do?
Nah, he getting some 7-on-7, some team. I think he was in 2 minutes today, actually. He get back there. He could throw the ball still. It's not his throwing.
Yeah, it's the non-throwing shoulder. Right. So I mean, it seems like he's grasping the playbook and kind of gelling with receivers and things like that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The tight end position appears to be one of the deeper positions on the team, especially with John Samuel Shanker coming back. I imagine with you playing nickel or safety, you have to cover those guys a lot. What does that look like, kind of competing with those guys?
It's fun, especially for me, because I'm a smaller dude compared to them. So
sure.
So I'm a little feisty with them, real feisty with them. I always said though, if I didn't, like, if it was another position I could play, I would love to play tight end.
Really? Why is that?
Man, it's just like when you're a tight end, like, you could be a mismatch for a DB, you could be a mismatch for a linebacker. Like, you're just a big body. You could run, you could block, you could catch. Like, you're doing it all.
I've always thought about that. Like, if I was a defensive back, which I'm the farthest thing from, Donovan, I cannot stress that enough. But if I was, and like you see a John Samuel Shanker like line up in the slot, or at the NFL level, you see Travis Kelce line up at the slot. Like, I got to be thinking like, oh my gosh, like I would think I would hate that if I was a defensive back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, man. You love a challenge, especially me. Like, when I'm on the field, how I look at it, especially like critical situations, I always think, all right, the ball coming to me. So like every rep have to be my best rep. So when I see those type of things, I'm 5'9", so I know the offensive coordinator seeing the same thing we all see. Let's try him in the slot. So that's just an opportunity for me to make more plays. Fair enough.
Donovan, thank you so much for your time, man. Really, really appreciate it. I know you guys are so busy during spring, but best of luck with everything moving forward, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Great stuff from Donovan. Really, really appreciate his time. Extremely, extremely busy. But what a cool guy. I love talking to these players. And I love what NIL Auburn is doing for the fan base, for the players, for media, whatever it may be. I think it's great. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition of the show as Justin Ferguson of the Auburn Observer joins us. Be sure to check that out. And also, if you missed our conversation earlier this week with Eku Leota, be sure to check that out on YouTube or earlier this week on the podcast feed. It was fantastic. Follow me on Twitter at Zac Blackerby. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.